Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast, where successful business owners share their strategies to help them get more accomplished without actually working more. I'm your host, Lisa Curley-Malice, and today is a very special episode of the podcast. I had the opportunity to speak with 4 successful business owners who are in the process, or actually, I would say they've pretty much mastered the art of delegating. So you want to listen in as they share their insights, their journey along the delegating path, some of the areas they've struggled in, where they're looking to go next. Specifically, we are speaking with Chiquita Jones, and Chiquita owns Chiquita Jones Virtual, and she's actually an certified online business manager. So she talks about her experience delegating and also the experience that her clients have as they are delegating. Leslie McClure is also one of our guests, and she's a clinical psychologist, and she owns Kent Psychological Associates. And in the last 5 years, her business has tripled, and she definitely shares that delegating is a huge piece of that. We have 2 returning guests. So Laura Licursi was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and she's the owner and founder of Elite Virtual Assistants, which is a virtual assistant agency that helps attorneys and small business owners. So she shares it from the perspective of herself as the business owner, and then also from the perspective of her clients and some of the challenges they have faced along the way. And Leah Hadley is back, crowd favorite. Leah Hadley, she was one of our first guests, and she is the founder of Great Lakes Financial Solutions, Great Lakes Investment Management, and also Watch Her Thrive, which is her 3rd company that was in when we did an earlier episode. So listen in. All 4 of these amazing women share their journey, and there's a ton of strategies and tips for you. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So really quickly, would you just share a bit about who you are, what you do? And we'll go ahead with Chiquita.
So I am a certified online business manager and a graduate of the Integrator Academy, and I help women business owners make light work of their systems, processes, and planning.
Thank you. And Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah Hadley. I'm the founder of Great Lakes Investment Management, Great Lakes Divorce Financial Solutions, and the Watch Her Thrive community. And I help people make wise financial decisions, helping them to build and create wealth.
Thanks. And Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie McClure. I'm a clinical psychologist and owner of a group practice down in Portage County, Kent Psychological Associates.
Perfect. And Laura.
I am Laura Licursi, owner and founder of Elite Virtual Assistants, and we help busy business owners and professionals with our virtual assistant services.
Awesome. And thank you again, the 4 of you, for being here today. I'm excited to hear about your stories with delegating. And I'm also excited to see how it works with all 5 of us on Zoom at the same time, talking about something we're all passionate about. So we shall see where this goes. So first question for all of you is, tell us your delegating story. Like, what have you been able to accomplish, or what have your clients been able to accomplish because of being able to delegate? And we'll go ahead and let's start with Laura.
Okay, so for me, it's delegating for myself personally. I have been able to focus more on the big picture of my business, and it's taken me a while to get here. It's not something that happened overnight, but I started, slowly delegating different areas of my business that were keeping me busy, but it was always keeping me from, creating new programs or new offerings or, new services. And those are the things that, really can move the needle forward and can grow your business. And when you're busy working inside of your business all the time, it's really hard. Sometimes it's even hard to see that, to see that vision. So it's definitely helped me get out of the weeds of my business and really be able to, to be able to grow as much as we've grown over the last few years.
And so what would you say was one of the first things that you delegated?
The first thing I delegated was my social media and digital marketing, because that I would so easily fall down a rabbit hole with that, from creating the graphics to creating the content. And then, that's time consuming on its own. But then even to have to go and then schedule it all, that doesn't sound like much, but that again is time consuming. So that was the first thing that I offloaded. And that was a huge relief off of me.
I saw you nodding along, Leah. Similar story?
Yeah, social media was definitely the first thing to go for me as well. It can really, really be a huge time suck. So absolutely. And similar to Laura, I would say, it's been about making, like, it's an opportunity to grow the business, right? When I'm delegating those responsibilities that are not really developing and growing and managing my clients, it opens up such a world of opportunity, business wise, but even personally, like I have 3 kids, and part of me going into business myself is about having time to spend with my family and having flexibility. And without other people on my team, that felt impossible, early on. So it's been huge for having that kind of balance in my life.
So you just launched your third business. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So excited. And tell me what being able to delegate, like give me the connection between you being able to delegate to being able to open this third business.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I could not do Watch Her Thrive without my team, because, with the client relationships that I have, I just wouldn't have the capacity, the time, the energy. But it's a way for us to reach people through community, through group, for people who couldn't work with a traditional financial advisor on their own, and just have a broader impact. And so it's been really exciting for me, but just time wise, it couldn't have happened without my team.
I'm super excited. So be sure to, those of you who are watching now, go back a couple episodes when Leah was sharing with us that she was getting ready to launch her third business. And here it is. It is alive in here. Leslie, tell us a little bit about your journey down the delegating path.
Yeah, everything that Laura and Leah said is so true for me as well. I would say that the biggest win I've had with delegating is being able to grow my business. My business has grown probably threefold in the past 5 years, and there's no way on earth I would have been able to do that without delegating. I was thinking today just about this podcast and about how I'm not working 3 times as much as I was 5 years ago, but my business is 3 times as big. And that's directly a result of delegating. And even the circumstances we're in now with the pandemic, no one could have prepared for this, but the delegating that I'm doing has helped make it more bearable for me. I'm able to be with my kids, do the remote schooling with them, and know my business is still doing great and still thriving, even without me there every day.
Right. Right. Because I think, as you said, your business has grown threefold, yet you're not working 3 times as much, thank goodness.
No.
And even that, would you say the hours that you're working right now are equal to, greater than, or less than the hours a year ago?
Less than a year ago, and probably much less than 5 years ago, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, the power of delegating. So Chiquita, share a little bit about your perspective from the other side.
Sure. So for me, I help clients to do that delegating piece and figure out what they can get off of their plate. And my clients just get a lot of peace of mind, bandwidth to be able to concentrate on various projects that they want to bring to fruition by delegating. There are some things that they really shouldn't be doing. It's something that somebody else easily could do, and it takes up that mental space and mental capacity and energy from them when they hold on to those things and continue to do them, when someone else could do it and then it frees them up. So that's what I've seen. Social media is absolutely a common one that people like to get off of their plate because it is so involved. And especially to do it well. I mean, it's not just a matter of, oh, let me just throw something together and throw it up. So when you have somebody who's a specialist in that area, they can do it and do it in a way that's much more effective without you actually spending that time and energy to do it half as good as someone who's an expert in that area. So it's really important for people to focus on, to know and understand what they're good at and where their focus should be. And then the rest of it, get it off their plate and give it to somebody else who can take care of it for them.
Yeah. Half as good and takes twice as long. Like, why
Right.
would we make that trade-off as
Yes.
business owners? Like, why would we do that? All
Yeah.
right. So we've definitely laid the groundwork for why we should all delegate. And I know from working with my clients that they hear it, they know it, and then there's a million reasons why they can't do it. It's, whatever those reasons may be. And it always seems so much easier when we're talking about it than when they actually try to implement. So let's jump into challenges. Let's lay it all on the table. We know it's not easy. What are some of the biggest challenges? And let's not leave our listeners hanging. Talk about how you overcame the challenge too. So, what's one of the biggest challenges that you've had? Leah, let's start with you.
Well, I'm going to go to money because I'm a money person. And I think that a lot of people think that they cannot afford to delegate. And I think that's very common, right? And I really truly believe that that is a mindset, because it really, when I get into the numbers, when I'm working with people and looking at their businesses or looking at their personal finances, there are so many opportunities to make better financial decisions that allow people to free up the funds to make that initial investment, where they'll very quickly realize the rewards are, like Leslie was saying, how quickly you can grow working less and being more productive, right? But it's that initial step. And I was right there. So I am no different. Initially, I was terrified to spend money as a new business owner. I didn't feel really confident in my cash flow. I didn't necessarily know where my next client was coming from. I hadn't had the same kind of rhythm that I have right now. But what I've seen time and time again is that implementing, having the team, delegating marketing, which is something that like I was doing very inconsistently because it was just as I had time to do it, makes the whole cash flow process more consistent, more, you know what to expect, right? And so that money piece, though, that initial investment, I find is very, very difficult, and me included, it was very difficult to make that initial investment. But I think usually when you do kind of look through the numbers, you can find the money.
Was there um, something that stood out to you to made you say, all right, that's it. I'm just going to delegate?
For me, it was all about coming back to my why I got into business. And I want to make a big impact on the world. I just feel like there's so much stress and so much anxiety around money. And I knew that I was very limited in what I was able to do on my own. And recognizing that I couldn't come back to my why, I couldn't, serve my greater purpose if I was just trying to do everything myself. But also, it's twofold. It's like, what's the mission behind my business? But then also the whole reason I went into my business myself was for my family, right? And so to be able to be the mom that I want to be able to, not now, with coronavirus, but like go to PTA meetings in the middle of the day or go on the class field trip and do those things, I couldn't do it all myself.
Thank you. Chiquita, what do you see as the biggest challenge, and how do some of your clients overcome?
I actually agree very much with what Leah said, that it's mindset. And sometimes it's money, but sometimes it's other pieces like they're not going to do it as well as I do. Oh, it will take me longer to teach somebody than for me to just do it myself. And a lot of those things are just built into the mindset as well. And one of the things that I find is helpful is just that people have to, um, they've got to buy into it. they have to buy into the benefit that they're going to reap from the delegation. And they have to give people a chance. And they need to also understand that at some point that person is going to get proficient at it, and then they may, with them being able to focus on that task in a different way, they'll be able to find innovations. They'll be able to find other ways to do it even better, more efficient, faster, because they will have that bandwidth to be able to look at it through a different set of eyes. Or they may have different experiences from past clients or in past positions that will give them insight into something that's helpful to the business owner. So I think that's also its mindset as well.
I love that idea of what you just shared about they have a whole nother skill set and experience and connections. And so they're bringing all these things to the task that you don't have. And they can, not only be quicker, but better and have a much better product at the end. Yes. Oh, you're speaking to the choir. Thanks, Chiquita. Leslie, what do you think? Challenge.
Boy, I can hear all the stages I went through in the reasons I didn't want to delegate. I couldn't afford it, number one. And then when I got past that, no one else was going to do it as good as I was because it was my business. So I went through that. And then I got to a place, and I was working with Lisa on this, is that I wasn't very good at it, at delegating, because it actually is a skill and I didn't have it. But Lisa broke it down for me. Then she said there's these 5 levels of delegation. I'm not sure where those come from. I use Michael Hyatt's. But you really have to think about, are you delegating just a task to somebody, or are you delegating an entire project and giving them autonomy and authority to make decisions? And so I think my biggest challenge was identifying what am I delegating in what way and then what level, and being real intentional about that, so that I didn't vacillate between micromanaging and delegating by abdication, which is the opposite. Like, you just go do it and don't bother me. So that was my big challenge that Lisa really helped me overcome.
Well, and I love watching that progress for you as, you realized, wait a minute, it is a skill set. Because it wasn't that you were bad at it. It's just that you didn't know.
I didn't know how to do it.
There were steps. You had no idea how to do it. And now look at where, you're remote schooling and running a large practice. So yay, Leslie.
But I did have to go through every single one of those other steps too.
Right? Yeah. And I love how you guys are laying this out in a process. Laura, give us some perspective here.
So from my experience, the biggest issue is people will come to us and say, I know I need to delegate, but I don't know where to start. So that, kind of piggybacks off of what Leslie was saying. And the best piece of advice I can give for that is to start small. You don't want to wait until you are so overwhelmed that, you're trying to just dump, 30 tasks onto somebody, because that's not gonna work well. So I always say start with something that's repetitive, because the other problem that I see is people will use VAs very sparingly. So it's very hard for you to form a relationship and to really be able to build that trust and how you're going to work together so that you can continue to offload things. So because, a problem with that is, you might use somebody for an hour one week and then you don't use them for a couple weeks. And, it's just very hard to keep that engagement going and to even keep somebody interested in working with you and in working, with that role. So do something, or, offload something that is going to be repetitive that they have to do on a regular basis, just to keep them involved. And so that you can see that progress of that one piece, like, oh my gosh, I don't have this piece to do or worry about anymore. Let me try this piece. It makes it a lot easier to ease yourself into delegating than trying to just, either offload it all at once or just do it so intermittently that you really aren't seeing much of a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone have like a specific story that stands out in their mind of a time where they're like, yes, I did it? Or, oh my God, if I could rewind the clock 3 days, I would totally start over and do it differently when it comes to delegating. And I know I'm throwing this at you blindly, but does anyone have and story that they could share?
I
I
have
do.
one.
Oh.
So I started, like I was really afraid to spend money initially and invest in my business and invest in delegating. And I made some very big mistakes early on where I was using somebody who was very inexpensive because I was afraid to spend money. And that was really like a huge waste of money. So if I could have done it again, I would have invested in really good quality support very early on rather than trying to like, pinch pennies and do it that way. I would have seen more progress in my business more quickly. And it was definitely a mistake that I learned from.
That's a really good point, Leah. Because a lot of that is, it goes back to that money mindset. So that's huge. I know for me, my big offload was I recently this year brought on a salesperson, somebody to help with sales. And for me, that was huge. That was a role that I always did myself. And it's, it's a big part of my business. So it took up a lot of my time. And so when I was able to hand that over and I found such an amazing person to do it, it was just this enormous load lifted off of me. And what some of the things I've been able to do since then, it's just made a huge difference.
I know for me, one thing going along with paying for help in the beginning, I felt like, well, I can't afford to do it. And then I also, part of me felt like, well, my clients expect me to do everything. And neither of those was true. My clients hire me, they hire my organization, and the people that work on my team are a part of my team. So the clients didn't have any issues with who was doing work as long as it was getting done, it was getting done well. And that was a part of where I had to learn about the delegation process that, okay, I'm delegating this, but for me, ultimately, I was responsible for making sure that the results were done and just following through on that piece and knowing exactly where my responsibility started and ended. With the paying for it as well, that was one of the things I kind of thought, oh, I don't know, I can't afford it. I should just go ahead and do it myself. But it helped me to scale my business by having additional support in the organization to be able to take over certain things. And the more that I could group tasks together, so if something similar was being done for a couple of different clients, if I had one person that could do that for everybody, then I could gain that peace of mind that they were learning how to do it, they knew how to do it well, and I didn't have to watch it as closely or as many people doing the same thing. So that was one way that it was efficient for me to delegate things.
Thank you. And Leslie, I think you were going to jump in there earlier.
Yeah, I was thinking about at some point a couple years ago, I decided to delegate the supervision of my administrative staff to somebody else on my staff. And I've done that twice, the first time unsuccessfully, and I had to redo it. So the second time was successful. The difference, I think, is the second time I really focus more on what's the outcome that I want here. And here are the parameters that you can work within. But as long as you get this outcome, I don't care too much about how you do it. And I think I also stressed, and I stress this with everybody I'm delegating anything to, our shared values. So you can do things a lot of different ways as long as you keep in mind the values that we all share and the culture that we're trying to keep within the organization. And I think the bigger your organization gets, the more important it is to make sure those values are really known and explicit, and that's what you're following up on a lot too, not just the tasks, but are we all continuing to abide by these shared values?
Which brings to mind a question for each of you on zone of genius, because I happen to know Leslie's zone of genius for her business. So I'll let you answer first, Leslie. But like, what is it that's your role in your business? When you're looking at delegating pieces out, what is it that you want to keep? So go ahead, Leslie. What's your role?
Okay, my zone of genius is the keeper of the culture. no matter what I do, I want to make sure we maintain the same high level of patient care and care for each other in our practice. So that when I'm delegating, I keep that in mind.
So anything that falls under that umbrella is yours, and everything else is up for potential delegation out to somewhere else.
Right, right.
Awesome. All right. Who else can identify their zone of genius?
I
would
can't.
say,
Oh, sorry.
I would say mine is being that sounding board. There's something that my clients get from having conversations with me, talking through things, being able to open up and say whatever it is that they're dealing with, what they're struggling with, what they're trying to figure out, and then being able to have a non-judgmental voice come alongside them and help them pull apart all of the pieces and sift through things and understand, okay, here's how I want to move forward. And then once we've done that, then I help them lay out the plan to actually accomplish it. But I work with them to make sure that they're doing what they really want to be doing and that their vision is really coming to light.
I'd have to say mine is the visionary. I am a big picture person. I always have a million ideas, as I know Chiquita can account for that, working with us for so long. But so that is mine. I always like to be, putting together something new or having a new idea or a new offering or service or whatever it is. And I have to say the other piece of that I have to go along with Leslie is keeping the culture too. That's really important to me on both sides for our VAs and our clients.
Leah, anything to add?
Well, I would say for me, it's really, I bring a lot to my client relationships. I have very in-depth knowledge of complicated financial situations, but I'm also an accredited financial counselor. So I'm not kind of your traditional financial advisor. I tend to work with people who are going through a difficult time. And that skill set, I have to say, has been difficult to delegate because it really does come from a wealth of experience. And what I'm finding is there are pieces that I can share and I can teach. But when it comes to really somebody who's in financial crisis, that's kind of they need me at that point.
Which is a perfect lead in to my next question. Is there anything that you are thinking about delegating that you have not yet done? Because right now you guys have delegated a lot. You recognize your place in your business. You know what's what. Is there anything that you're just have not yet taken the leap or not yet ready to take the leap?
Copywriting.
Tell us more, Chiquita.
I do not enjoy writing copy. It's just something that I don't like doing. I obsess over it and change things. And does a comma belong here? Did I say that right? Is there another word? Is that overused? I just think about it way too much. And it's something that I would love to outsource. And part of my issue is figuring out, okay, exactly what do I want that to look like? And what do I want? Do I want somebody to write blog posts? Do I want somebody to, what kind of copy do I need done? So that part I've got to, do some figuring out, but copywriting is the next thing on the list.
For me, it's some of the more complicated financial analysis. I did bring somebody on over the summer, so I do have another analyst here, but it'll be a long time before she has the level of knowledge that I'm able to apply to different scenarios. But we're very actively engaged in that process and doing lots of training. So it's something I see long-term as an opportunity, but it's going to take time.
For me, it's a pretty big role that I need to have a long-term plan for how I'm going to delegate. I'm eventually not going to want to be the clinical director for my practice because, what that means is I'm basically responsible for any kind of clinical emergency, any kind of clinical questions all the time. So I need to have a path towards that. It's not going to be a quick thing.
Mine is the rest of my bookkeeping. So I started delegating half of it. But I have to just be able to let go of the rest, which is funny because I've been able to do it with every other role, but for some reason that one piece I'm clinging to. So once I can overcome that, then that'll be my last piece to delegate out.
Well, and I appreciate you guys answering that question because for so many reasons, but one is it's real. Like you guys have amassed this level of success because you've done it well, yet each of you still has a piece that you've identified that you still want to let go of. And you're in the process of doing it. You've thought about it. You know what you still need to do it. But there's hope, I think, for everyone listening that this is a process. And every time you make a step forward, you're getting yourself one step closer to removing yourself completely from all the other stuff. But even if you only ever take one step, you're further than where you started. And you guys are all living proof of that. So thank you for sharing the I'm still a work in progress story with all of us because we all know I'm still a work in progress. So thank you for sharing that part of your story. So as we close out, what I'm hoping is you guys can give one tip for our listeners, like one quick tip. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Chiquita.
Okay. I would say hire well. Take the time to hire well. And if you hire well, it'll help you to feel more confident in delegating pieces of your business to someone.
Laura?
Kind of going along with what Chiquita said, but not waiting until you're overwhelmed. It's like drowning and you can't call for a life preserver. You need to start with it. So start small, but start, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be for you to do it. You have to just take that leap of faith.
What do you think, Leah?
I think delegating is a really important investment in your business. And I would look at it like that, being really thoughtful and strategic and having it part of your overall plan for how you're operating. It really is, there can be a huge return on that investment, but treating it as such will help you to get there.
Leslie, what's your tip?
Mine's, I think, a small practical tip. Oftentimes when I sit down to think about delegating, I can't remember what it is that I wanted to delegate. This happens to me a lot. So I keep a running list on my computer of things that I could delegate in the future. And whenever I'm doing something and the thought pops in my head, why am I doing this? I just put it on my list. And that way, a few weeks from now, when I'm thinking about delegating, I can look at my list and I have 10 things that I could delegate. So that's helped me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So today's conversation was focused all on delegating, which I appreciate you guys doing that. And I know that you are all amazing business women in your own right. And so how can people get a hold of you if they're looking for your services and what you can help them do better in their lives? And we'll just start right here with Chiquita. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Sure. So I am old school and people can call me. It's perfectly fine to pick up the phone and call me. I'm at 978-400-CJVS. And then my email address and everything is going to be in the show notes. So
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. I'm old school. You can actually pick up the phone.
I don't always answer because I do work in time blocks, but I return phone calls. So if someone leaves a message, I get back to you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Laura.
You can visit our website, elitevirtualassist.com, and there's a contact us page and you can send me a message.
Perfect. What about you, Leah? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, I'm everywhere, but I am very active on LinkedIn. You can look me up, Leah Hadley. I would love to connect with you and learn more about what's going on with you.
All right. And what about you, Leslie?
Oh, email is probably the best way to reach me. It's lmcclure@kentpsychological.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, women, extraordinary women, for being on the podcast today and for sharing your journey on delegating and being open and honest with us. So thank you guys all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I truly hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we did recording it. Delegating is a topic that's really near and dear to our hearts, as you can tell from listening. And if you are ready to increase your skill set because you know that that is the way that you're going to scale your business and that you are going to increase your business without actually working more, then I invite you to go to delegatelikeapro.com and sign up to be notified when our next master series is starting.